Welcome to Ask the Experts, the program where we take your question, fan it out to our experts far and wide, and try and get you some professional help to make you the best credit professional you can be. This time around, we have a number of questions that have come from people over the last few months, and we've been able to consolidate them, thanks to the fact that we have an interim credit or collections manager in the form of Roger Benford. Roger was a member of ours for many years, working for the Harnish Group, which owns NC Machinery and a whole lot of other NCs, and retired about a year ago. He graciously stepped forward to serve as our interim collections manager after Paul Krause left us, and will be here for a few months. And we're really, really glad to have him. And he was happy to take on some of these questions today. So we're going to do maybe a truncated version of a presentation he's going to be doing for some of our trade groups in the next several weeks. And we invite you to send further questions in if you hear something that you want to know more about, and we'll get a response back to you. So with that, Roger, welcome, and thanks for serving NACM.
You're welcome.
As we look at collections work, a lot of it hasn't changed, but there have been a number of changes in recent years. And I think at the end of the day, it all starts out with realizing the value of money. When somebody owes you money up front, it's worth 100%. As time goes by, that value decreases. So if you would talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's obviously why companies have credit departments to realize an optimal return on their accounts receivable investment. But as those receivables age, and this chart moves a couple of cents here or there, depending on the economy. But right now, I think I read where the 90-day accounts are worth 73 cents on the dollar in terms of your average recapture. 180-day accounts slide further toward the red line at 50 cents on the dollar. 365-day accounts, that's accounts that are a year old, 25 cents on the dollar, which, as we discussed, if you have a 100% markup even on your product, you're losing money hand over fist at that point.
Yeah. And for someone that's relatively new to the enterprise of collections and credit and the work we do, and we have a lot of new people coming in now, a lot of this really comes down to defining your company's credit culture. And you come from a very vibrant culture at Harnish, but talk a little bit, if you will, about credit culture and the importance of that.
I think it's one of the most important aspects of being in credit or credit management. And I firmly believe that although you earn trust, what you spend that trust on is your ability to define the credit culture, which starts with everything from a cutting edge credit application that provides for late charges and venue provisions, et cetera. All the way to things that are a little more ethereal, like not training the customers to pay late by not making it okay to have accounts that are past due. Because really, once you get there, it's very hard to get back to a sense of order.
So let's put ourselves in the position of being someone relatively new to this profession. You're charged now with picking up the phone, which sometimes could weigh 800 pounds, and making a call to ask somebody to pay their bill. It's not rocket science, but if you've not done it or not done a lot of it, it can be daunting. So it often helps to pre-plan that call. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. Right off the cuff, you're going to hear more COVID excuses than you ever have. And it's besides just sort of gearing up for what the litany of responses is. I think it's really important to boil it down to the foundation of debt recovery, which is to read the prior collection notes, to look at the customer's payment history, to note any disputes or other idiosyncrasies on the account or with the customer. And because really that's what separates you from your competition is your knowledge of the customer.
Okay, so do a little homework before you pick up the phone and dial. Pretty simple suggestion there. A couple days ago, you and I were talking about something that I clearly hadn't thought much about, and that is the different phone rings you might get and the tones you hear. Share your experience with that.
You know, I've been, since I've been here 6 weeks now or so, I've been paying attention to our debt recovery people. And they are as qualified as anybody I've ever had the privilege to work with. And some of these ideas I heard them discussing, and that is that just by the way the phone rings, you could tell if you're a blocked caller, or if you get that recording, it says this person can no longer be reached, blah, blah, blah. That's typically a blocked call. You can also use cell phone a lot of the time to call somebody from what they call an unknown number, so they can't see who you are or who you represent. Everybody knows the annoying fax machine ringtone, but if you hear a real fast, busy signal, that usually means that the phone's disconnected. If you hear lots of voicemail is full recordings, or if you hit dead airspace, that's basically somebody that's not going to talk to you with any degree of enthusiasm, probably.
Probably not. But you know, this sort of gets back to that. Maybe it's the other part of the call pre-planning. Right before we started this recording today, I had one of the annoying calls come in on my cell phone from a Bellevue, Washington number, and it turned out it was one of the Marriott hotel deals telling me I'd been selected. And somewhere I'm on a list. I think a lot of people get those. And so we live in a very noisy world today. And so, you know, all these little things we pick up along the way, they're kind of nuanced, but if we pay attention, we learn from them, and maybe we can figure out new ways to get through. We typically work in Washington, Alaska, Hawaii, although we have collections customers literally all over the country now, which we're grateful for, and we take time to give them good care. But for the sake of this discussion, let's stick with the three we know well. And there are some regional aspects that we should keep in mind when we're dealing with some of our customers, wherever they may be. So if you would speak to that.
You know, the couple of things that jump out at me from my experience is that, of course, Alaska has a permanent fund that is attachable. Washington has an L&I license bond for contractors. Hawaii has a term limit in terms of judgment enforcement. The point is that every state is different. And now that we have resources like asset search machines and Google and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, now that all those resources are out there for not just finding customers, but you can look up the business on Google or one of the real estate sites and see their storefront. In fact, we got a parts order when I was with NC, and I dialed up the business and it was vacant. It was for rent. And it looked like fraud. And so, you know, there are unlimited resources a little bit outside of the box, everything from, you know, the knot, which is, I mentioned was wedding announcements, to most of the prisons and jails have rosters of inmates. And as weird as that seems, I've found customers doing jail time. So it's basically unlimited. The only limit is your imagination in terms of using some of these tools that exist.
You have some great friends, don't you?
And some great enemies.
So as we wrap up here, you've had the pleasure of being a member for I don't know, however many years you remember.
Since the 80s.
Yeah, that's a long time. And you got the benefit of seeing I guess the finished sausage, if you will. Now you're on the side of the house where we actually make the sausage, and sometimes that's kind of ugly, but most of the time it's not. But I guess I would guess ask you for your comments about your belief in our ability to serve the customers. We think we do a great job, but you've now seen both sides of the fence. So tell us
before seeing this side, I've always thought that an attorney and a collection agency should be an extension of your credit department. In other words, you don't just flop over the account and hope they understand what happened. You guide their activities. You point them in the direction of the problems and the solution. And NACM, now that I've been here, is really the best kind of outsourcing you can do. I signed up as a trade credit report customer in the 80s, but for the last 20, 25 years, we've been doing debt recovery. And along the way, we've sharpened our skills, really with minimal costs and fees, but lots of recoveries, fair rates, great results, and probably the most important thing is the development of a great sense of character. We're positive, professional, and we're prepared to do a good job.
Well, thank you. Roger's here for 90 days or so until we find a new replacement player. And as the one who has to ride herd on this place, I'm really grateful to have him. And he's been very helpful to our staff to make them even better. And so we're grateful for his willingness to come out of retirement. So with that, I'm going to bring this to a close and simply say, if you have a question, go to our website at nacmbcs.org, click on Ask the Expert, and you can send an email. We'll get you a written response, usually to your question within 24 hours, and then we'll take that question and bring it forward to the video podcast here and have one of our experts take it on. If you want to talk to Roger about collections work right now, call 206-728-6333, and we'll get you squared away and connected and go from there. So Roger, again, thank you so much. And to all of you watching this today, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.